if that phone was compromised, and really instead of stealing banking information, the plan was
Welcome to this episode of Cyber Confidential. I'm your host, Michael McCage from Iceberg Cyber. On this episode, we're deciphering when we should care about work-from-home security, and our guest is Brian Sypher from Scout Secured. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to talk to you again. Excited to be here.
Yes, Brian says again because this is attempt number 3 to record, because that's how it goes sometimes. The first time we recorded, I forgot to save the recording, so we get to go through it all again. Nevertheless, that means we're well practiced. So, Brian, we're talking about work from home security. And like the audience is going to be MSPs. Some of them have clients that have employees that work from home. Paint the picture here. When should people be caring about the security of the work from home environment?
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of hit it right there. If you have employees that work from home, that's definitely a first thing. You should care about that. Then if you don't, then obviously you don't have to worry about it. Outside of that, though, it's really like once you kind of build through the steps of like you've got the email secured and everybody's got MFA rolling on that. And because obviously phishing is like what 80-90% of the first step into a foothold into a network. So if you don't have that secure, get to work on that first. And then if look at EDR solutions, which most computers have Defender built into it, and that's a decent solution anyway. At that point, you've got email mostly, locked down, and your endpoints locked down, and then you can kind of go to the defense in depth model of you've got email, you've got host, and now you have network as well. So that's really where the kind of maturity progression, I think, that's at the point you should start to care.
Okay, so the entry bar here is that if a client and their employees are working from home, it might be on the radar.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably not the hottest fire to put out first.
Nope.
Like your graded maturity scale here is we focus on multi-factor authentication and email security first. Those are great entry points.
Yeah, the low-hanging fruit.
Right. So if an MSP, so what we were saying in the prep is like if the MSP's managing the network at the office, mm-hmm. and the same type of client or the same client has now people working from home or have been working from home, this is where the layer is in your maturity ladder.
Yeah. I mean, I always kind of say that like you wouldn't let somebody bring their Roomba into the office and their kid's iPad or whatever and have it connect to the network, or you shouldn't. Maybe you do, but
okay. Let's just say that I don't know what you're talking about. Why wouldn't you let a Roomba into the office?
Yeah,
I need to vacuum the floors, and Roomba is a popular brand for vacuums that get stuck in corners.
Yeah, it is. Mine's actually probably stuck right now. But yeah, so I mean, they all report data in different ways. Like there's plenty of, I don't think they're Roomba specific to that brand, but like they map your house and then they send it off to a server somewhere else, right? So everything has some kind of risk that it brings to a network. And
where's the risk in that? Like, what type of small business are we talking about? In your case today, let's paint an exact picture.
Yeah, sure. So if you have, I guess industry might not necessarily matter so much, but say you have a law firm. Let's just go with that.
Okay.
Because they have carpets and they need a Roomba. So if you have sensitive information like a law firm does with client information and all sorts of data like that, you don't want to have a Roomba. Like it doesn't necessarily matter so much about your floor plan. However, if you kind of extrapolate that a little bit and think about what IoT devices could gather off of your network and listen on your network, that creates a risk of siphoning data out. What information are they collecting? Where are they sending it? How is that stored? And especially when you start to get into some of like the, law is actually a good example because they have a lot of strict requirements that they like data storage and that kind of thing. So if you're going to have a bunch of these IoT devices on there, listening, sending data out, how do you know? How do you know what's happening there? Your EDR is not protecting against that. Your email stuff is not protecting against that. So you need to have a secure monitor network so that you can see where stuff is going, what is going there, and then also top that off with what information you're sending should be encrypted.
Okay, so right now we are talking about sort of basic network security best practices for a small business.
Yep.
And not a new concept.
No.
I'm sure many of the MSPs listening are going to say, yeah, we got our Fortinet or our Meraki or whatever, and we're blocking adult websites and gambling and whatever. Great. DNS sinkholing and whatnot. And if anyone's calling Moldova, it gets blocked and then alerted, and maybe someone checks it out at some point. So these are network security best practices for small biz.
Yep.
When what you're saying is, if you're thinking about that for a law firm client or another brick and mortar client, and then the employees work from home, this is the new concept that you're introducing. Is
yes,
the duty of care extends to the home in the same way that the same best practices you would use at the office can be applied to the home.
Exactly, and it should be because quick story. When I was kind of messing around with my network, I found a whole bunch of alerts. I was just setting up an IDS because, I'm a nerd and that's what I do. Turns out my wife's phone was compromised by Russia. Now, in that case, they were just trying to steal like banking information or whatever, and not necessarily trying to like do anything with my corporate stuff that I had on the same network. But that risk is like serious. Like that's a real thing. Like that is
what was going on there? Like tell us more of the details. Dig in.
Yeah. So I don't really know how it happened or what website she went to or whatever. I don't know the origin of it, but so I was building things out and a whole lot of alerts started coming in, and it was like her phone was like literally pinging Russia like every 30 seconds. And it was, I tried to break it down a little bit. We won't get too nitty gritty on it, but it was basically all empty pings at that point because she hadn't done like online banking on her phone, thankfully. So it was just kind of like sending empty, like we don't have anything yet. We don't have anything yet, waiting for her to do this. And then we'll have something.
Okay.
And so we
find the phone was compromised.
Yep. And and so if in my mind, like why this is important is if that phone was compromised and really instead of stealing banking information, the plan was let's look for corporate devices on this network. Let's look for other devices that, we can pivot to and say, I don't care about your banking information, but I care about your corporation's or your husband's corporation banking information, and I can pivot into that. So that's where it starts to become a real risk. And that's why I say, you wouldn't let your kid's tablet or your wife's phone, or shouldn't, onto a corporate network because you don't know what that's done. It hasn't gone through, it hasn't been vetted, it hasn't gone through any security checks or anything like that. So letting that live on the same network at home is outside of what you should be doing in the office. So what we're trying.
So again, we're talking. You're wrapping this back around to that concept of best network security best practices at the office, and this is just a different label for it because the home has now become part of the office.
Yeah, I mean, this is my office right here. And
right, this is my office. Yeah, I'm at home,
and nobody tells me how I have to set up my network.
Right. So, okay. Are you primarily concerned with other devices on the network? Like, is the unhygienic part the other unmanaged stuff, or is it more about like network management of the company asset, which is like the laptop?
Yeah. So both really. It's really about separating the two of them. So if you can have a second network that is for corporate devices, so you have your laptop and your phone or whatever, I don't think many people get too much more than that. That creates like a really clean environment for your corporate devices that is logically separated from your Roku or your, whatever, all your stuff that's just sitting around your house. And like most people have like 30 devices at their house. So that's, that's a fair number. And a lot of them go to different coffee shops or hotels or whatever, and then they come back home. And if you look at a lot of, again, best practices with business travel, like if somebody, and I guess this is kind of an aggressive example, but we'll go with it. If somebody travels like to China or some of those like not very safe places, a lot of times they come back and they just like throw the laptop out. It's like,
that's a corner case.
Yeah,
what about
exactly.
like just going to the airport or the hotel? Is
Sure.
there a concern there? Because that happens all the time.
Yeah, or what about like DEF CON or Black Hat? Like
that's a corner case.
True,
no accountants going there. No lawyers going there.
Yeah, I mean, like look at all there's plenty of stuff in the news about like the charging stations at airports being compromised and compromising your laptop, and then you bring it back to your house. Like there needs to be that separation for your stuff. But back to your comment or question really about do you care about the stuff at home that you need to separate or the actual corporate stuff? And that's why I said both, because you're going to travel with those devices as well, right? So you might plug that into a compromised charging station or your phone or whatever, your corporate phone to be specific. And you're going to bring that back to your house. You're going to bring that maybe to an office if you're hybrid. But you need to have that needs to be monitored. That needs to be locked down in some way so that they can identify if the device itself is compromised and it's accessing, cloud stuff, like whether it be O365 stuff or Google or whatever. You got to know. Kind of zero trust.
How are MSPs doing this now for clients? What's the options?
I don't really think they are too much. I think that kind of the go-to solution is just to get like a VPN and say connect to that, and everything is encrypted.
Right.
Yeah, and
that's a common enterprise type thing where you got to be on the virtual cloud, the virtual network for the enterprise to access whatever shared drives and stuff.
Right.
Or even Active Directory.
Yeah. But I mean, a normal VPN doesn't really do security. It does like encryption and maybe makes you look like you're somewhere else. But it's not I think it needs to really be it needs to be an elevated VPN experience, if you will. Okay. I think that companies need to be able to monitor and like you mentioned, like the DNS sinkholing stuff like that. That's cool. That's like that's a good start. But I mean, looking at IDS and IPS stuff, like it's not that hard to set up. I think that it could be built into it. And that's really, I think, where we need to go is having that kind of full spectrum security built out into a VPN. Well, I guess I'm not going to say VPN network because that's redundant, but that's
the N stands for network.
It does, doesn't it?
So we're painting the picture here. What's the Scout secured solution?
Sure.
The problem is unmanaged company assets in dirty environments, which you're saying that the home should be considered dirty. With no prejudice, just against it doesn't follow any cyber hygiene best practices, so then it's counted as dirty.
So we have built a easy to deploy elevated VPN, I guess, really. So we call it cybersecurity in a box. We provide you with a secure network. It's a VPN that you can connect to either through a router that we send you and your remote employees, or if you're physically on the go, we give you a kind of connection so you connect directly to. Yeah.
Props are involved in the making of this episode. So this is a tiny little travel router made by a company called GLINet that you can buy. You purchase these off the shelf, and then you put your software suite on it.
Well, so actually, no. Almost. So we basically just put a VPN configuration on there. So it supports WireGuard by default, which is awesome. I love WireGuard. Super fast, and as far as I know, hasn't been cracked yet. So that's a win. And then we have a security stack in the cloud. So that is kind of the hub of a hub and spoke model. So all of your traffic flows through there. Yeah, looking good.
Products showcase.
Yeah.
Should have got your sticker on it. Brian didn't send me. This is mine.
Yeah. So all of your data flows through your security stack. There's a custom DNS server on there. So like back what you're saying, sinkholing, and we go beyond just adult websites and gambling and stuff, but also try to hit like what we download a bunch of lists and keep up with threat intelligence so that bad stuff gets blocked too. But then there's IDS, IPS components in there. We have a password manager. So it's literally like all of what you need. That's why we call it cybersecurity in a box. Here's your box, plug in, and when you're on the network, you've got all the things that you need for security. And then the biggest perk with that is what we talked about, is that it creates a second network at your home or wherever you are, so that you have a clean little environment to work in with your corporate stuff.
Right. Because if you had an agent on the laptop, this would just protect the tunnel of information that goes through the agent, which is not LAN usually.
Right.
Right. Because the LAN is often handled on the network card differently than if you're going WAN.
Exactly.
So your proposal is that by connecting the laptop to this Wi-Fi or hardwired, either, that physically separates everything from the laptop from the other devices on the network. Whereas if the laptop just had an agent, the other device on the network would still be able to talk to the laptop. Yep.
And that's where, like, I think that is still a viable solution if you're physically on the go. So if you're like at the airport, and you're not plugging that thing in at the airport, I don't think, unless you're there for a long time.
This is one of their bigger ones, honestly. They have smaller ones.
Yeah, but most people, if they're on the go, they just want to, like, flip a little toggle on their phone, right?
Convenience.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's still better than nothing, but it doesn't do what we're talking about with that logical separation of everything. So,
and MSPs should really look at this for what it is. It's a tiny firewall. Like, that's what you're talking about. Is just a miniature. If everything you're doing best practices at the office is miniaturized in this, that's what it is at the home. And that's what you're talking about. It's the same best practices, just miniaturized so that you can deploy it to the employee and they can use it. Super convenient.
Yeah. And I've spent my fair share of time in a SOC and stuff. So I know that, like, anytime anybody talks about like a new tool or a new thing, it kind of turns into like, what new alerts am I going to get? Like, how much more, like, why are you adding more to my plate? And the good news is that having this kind of, that separation, you won't get many alerts. And the alerts that you get will be high quality because you're not getting alerts from, employee's wife's phone that's compromised by Russia. You're getting alerts just from the devices that you care about. And at that point, it should be something worth looking at. So it's not necessarily like a add of work, but it's an addition to actual security. So it's kind of a win-win in my mind.
All right, here's the fun question: who shouldn't care about this? Like, speak to the MSPs on their level. You told when they should care. Like, if they got email security and everyone's using MFA and they're doing best practices for network monitoring at the office, and the employees go home, this might be something they should care about. Who really doesn't need to care about this?
Yeah. I mean, everything that we've built it's really nothing new. It's just in a nice, small, miniaturized package. So any like large corporation, they have this. And if they don't, they should. And they can afford to have, 20 Cisco guys on staff that can make it happen for them. So if you're like a large company, you can just move on, really. And beyond that, I mean, well, I guess we did touch on it too. If you don't have remote employees, you don't have to worry about this. That's not part of it's not on your plate. So if you're big and you've got a huge budget and you can go buy all this stuff and have experts all set it up for you, go for it. If you don't have those experts and you don't have a huge security team, this is much more for you.
Sweet. Why'd you start this business, Brian?
Yeah, so I've been working remotely since before it was cool. I got out of the Air Force in like 2014-ish and 2015, I think, and started kind of bouncing around remote startup world. And one company like sent me a managed router and phone and laptop, and I was like, whoa, that's way different. I never even thought about like how that's a thing. And I looked at it and I was like, that router is really expensive. And so my wheels started to churn a little bit. And then at the same time, I was working on kind of like a, I don't know, side hustle of like fixing people's computers for them. And I started to realize that like kind of the like mom and pop shops and small businesses, they don't have like that expertise or care. One guy said to me, I was fixing his computers like every month. And I was like, dude, I could just show you how to do this. And he said to me like, no, when I have a problem with my plumbing, I call a plumber. If I have a problem with my electrical work, I call an electrician. I call you. You're like my guy for that. So kind of putting those two things together, I realized that like the smaller companies, they don't want to do this. They don't want to set stuff up, and they don't have the budget to like really bring in a ton of experts. So I kind of put the two things together and realized that like, you know, we could probably help a lot of those smaller companies with a affordable cybersecurity in a box solution so that they can survive.
So you're speaking the language of most MSPs, because that's what most MSPs, that's the experience they went through, is they were working some other job, and then a bunch of their friends knew they liked computers, started asking them to help them with their computers, so they started a business. Yes. What led you to create like a product company versus walking the MSP route and providing services to small businesses?
There's a lot of MSPs, to be honest. I mean, I won't dive too far into it. I also like when I was in the Air Force and doing defensive cyber operations, I kind of realized I don't like doing that. I like building tools for people to do that. So that became this like, and I think that that's something that I can support an MSP with, and I would rather do that than start my own MSP and try to make that work, because I'm not passionate about that.
What gravitated you to this, little micro boxed cyber in a box with the networking thing? Like, why that? It's a huge mosaic. There's a rainbow of security issues for small businesses. What got you to latch onto this?
So it started with the Raspberry Pi. I won't dive through all the history, but like it started with the Raspberry Pi, and I was just building it on my home network, and that's where I found my wife's stuff, and that's kind of turned into like, oh, I know that the market is like big time into like just put an agent on the system. We don't need hardware anymore. And I kind of started to look at it, and I was like, actually, we kind of do. Like, I wouldn't have been able to easily deploy this like to every device on my home network. But if I just control the network, I'm monitoring all of it. So it was just kind of a logical like design decision, I guess, that I kind of came across.
Sweet. How's the business going? Like, give us the background story. How long you been doing it? What's the theme for summer of 25?
Yeah, so we've only been around for like technically like 2 years, if you want to like go to when we like incorporated. But we've grown. We've started to actually team up with some insurance providers, cyber insurance providers, because it turns out that if you could have something like this on your network, they look at that as minimizing your risk, and they'll kind of minimize the cyber insurance bill. So that's kind of a route we've gone with that, and that's working out pretty nicely. We also recently kind of split into two different paths of our product offerings. We were originally only serving small businesses, but then we started to talk to a bunch of executives, and they were like, "Hey, I don't know if I've got the funding to do this for my business, but like, can I get this at home?"
Mm-hmm.
And so we started to look at doing a B2C offering, and now we will. If you've got a small business, we can help you out. If you've got just want to secure your home network, we can help you out there too.
Mm-hmm. High net worth at home type stuff. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of like big time Bitcoin or really crypto traders. They're kind of like the target market, not like by design, but just every time we talk to somebody, they're like, I need to have everything like locked down, and I do all my crypto trading on this computer.
Sure.
And
they operate their own bank.
Yeah, I mean,
with home built security guards.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. Sweet. So what's the split between this like B2B, B2C, or working with MSPs to help their small businesses?
Yeah, and thanks for saying that too, because like that is we've partnered with two MSPs so far, and that's worked out pretty nicely. It just kind of bring on their clients as our own and forward all of the logs, off to the MSP so they can respond to it and stuff. The split is it's actually fairly even. The B2C market is pretty fresh though, so we don't have much going on there. But I guess we call them either direct clients, where we just go out and get them. Then we have the referrals through MSPs and stuff. Overall, it's going pretty well though. We have a nice relationship with the two MSPs that we have right now, and they've provided us with good clients, and so far things are working.
So you serve the clients direct, like the MSP refers to you, or the MSP serves the client and you like supply?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on how the MSP wants to do it. The two that we've had so far, the easiest way for them, and it looks like the cyber insurer that we're working with will do a very similar thing, where they'll just refer us to the client, and then just take in either logs, or in the insurer's case would just say, okay, cool, you've got it. I'll check that box on your on your little receipt or whatever, and it'll give you X percentage off. So, but if this is
the small business getting cyber insurance with work from home employees?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And okay, cool. This is a common topic that comes up. The whole cyber insurance thing is a loaded conversation with great talking points. Like in the short time that we have, paint the broad brush here. Like, is that working nicely? The businesses are needing this coverage at home because they're working from home, and the insurance is genuinely valuing the extra effort that they're going through.
Yeah, actually, the most recent insurer that we talked to, super excited about it, which is really nice. As a salesman, you don't really have to hype anybody up, right? Because they had a couple of clients get compromised, and the root cause was a home worker. So,
okay.
So yeah, that like to them, that was the answer.
Was it what was the payback for the small business? Like, was it the cheaper policy, or was it a 0 or 1? Like, they were uninsurable beforehand, and now, since they're managing the risk profile of the work from home employees, they are insurable.
Yeah, so I haven't seen that part yet. I haven't seen an uninsurable side, but also that's kind of like levels beyond me. But everything we've talked about is more of a decrease your policy cost, because this is a new thing that's adding robustness to your security program.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So you got a good sweet deal there if you can keep pushing it with the insurance brokers, because then it's a win-win. They get clients, they get a higher loss ratio, you get clients, and the business owner / work from home person gets a better life and cheaper policy.
Exactly.
Woof. Excellent. All right, Brian, give us the 30-second pitch. Where can we find you? Tell us your LinkedIn's going to be in this video. Give us 30 seconds. Where are you located? Where you pitch? Where's the website?
Pretty easy. Scoutsecured.com and Scout Secured everywhere else. So whether it be X or Facebook or LinkedIn, it's all Scout Secured. We have a blog on our website as well, giving updates on new offerings, new things, news, all that kind of stuff. So pretty straightforward. Scout Secured.
Excellent, Brian. This has been take number 3. Thank you for your personal resilience in getting this recording done. Thanks for joining us on Cyber Confidential. This has been deciphering when to care about work from home security. Brian Sypher, Scout Secured. I'm your host, Mike. See you on the next episode.
Thanks. Yeah.
Enjoyed this episode? Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe.